I always knew the HOA was a nightmare, but I never imagined they'd hit me with a $50,000 bill just for my driveway. When I first opened the letter, I thought it was a prank, a $50,000 fine for non-compliant driveway material. I laughed so hard I almost spilled my coffee. Then I read the fine print. Failure to pay within 30 days would lead to legal action and possible foreclosure. That's when it sank in. This wasn't a joke. It was a declaration of war. I hadn't built a missile silo in my front yard. It was just a plain, smooth concrete driveway. But according to the HOA, only their approved pavers were allowed. Pavers sold exclusively by Laura Henderson's brother's company. Laura, of course, was the HOA president, the same woman who once fined a neighbor for a garden gnome she claimed ruined the neighborhood's aesthetic. Furious, I grabbed the letter and stormed over to her house. Her front yard was straight out of a luxury catalog. Perfectly manicured hedges, a fountain with koi fish, and a flag proclaiming, "HOA rules keep us safe." It was as ironic as it was infuriating. Laura opened the door with her signature smug grin, the kind that begged for a pie to the face. "Oh, Tom, I was just about to call you," she said, her tone dripping with fake sweetness, as if she'd been waiting for me to come begging. "I assume you got our notice?" I waved the letter. "Tell me this is a mistake." She shook her head with crocodile tears. "I wish it were, but rules are rules. You should have used the HOA-approved material." I clenched my fists. "Laura, this house came with a concrete driveway when I bought it. Are you saying it was fine then, but now it's illegal?" She chuckled, like I was a child struggling with algebra. "Oh, Tom, the rules evolve to protect property values. We can't have inconsistencies." I glanced at her driveway, plain concrete, just like mine. "What about yours?" I asked. She waved a hand dismissively. "Mine's grandfathered in. But don't worry, my brother's company offers great financing to replace yours." My jaw tightened so hard I thought I'd crack a tooth. "I'm not paying $50,000 for a driveway I already own." She shrugged. "Then you'll be in violation, and we both know where that leads." I knew exactly what she meant. Laura had driven out at least 3 homeowners in the past year. First, an elderly couple lost their home over a front door painted the wrong shade of green. Then a dad got fined into oblivion for putting up a basketball hoop for his kids. The worst was a widow in her 70s, foreclosed on because her roses weren't approved. I stormed home, seething. I could either pay up and bow to this tyranny or fight back. And I had no clue how ruthless the HOA could get. The next morning, I found a new notice taped to my garage. Now it wasn't just the driveway. They were fining me for excessive grass height, even though I'd mowed the lawn 2 days earlier. 2 days later, another violation, improper trash containment. Every time I turned around, a new fine popped up. I checked my bank, thinking maybe a loan could bail me out, but the HOA had already flagged my property violations, blocking me from refinancing. Laura wasn't just enforcing rules, she was cutting off every escape route. I tried rallying my neighbors, but most avoided eye contact. Some whispered about the last guy who resisted. His car got towed 3 times in a week, his mailbox vanished, and the HOA jacked up his dues until he sold. I was now the neighborhood's public enemy number 1. One night, sipping a beer on my porch, my old college friend Ryan called. He was a real estate investor who knew every trick in the book. After I vented, he laughed. "Bro, if they're playing dirty, why not buy them out?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Check the property records," he said. "Most HOAs don't own the streets or sidewalks. They're held by a separate entity. If you can buy that land, you flip the script." It sounded insane, but that night, over another drink, I dug into the county records. What I found was a game changer. Laura and her cronies ran the HOA like their personal empire, but the land, the streets, sidewalks, common areas, was owned by a failing development company desperate to sell. The price? Less than my fine. My heart raced. Laura thought she had me trapped, but she didn't know I was about to buy the whole street out from under her. Realizing I could own the land gave me something I hadn't felt in weeks: power. Laura had rigged the game, but she never saw this coming. I wasn't just going to resist, I was going to win. The next morning, another violation notice arrived, this time for an unauthorized mailbox that had sat there for years. It was clear Laura knew I wasn't caving and was tightening the screws. I called a local attorney, a gruff guy named Dave who'd handled HOA disputes before. When I explained everything, he sighed. They've got the system locked down. HOA bylaws are vague on purpose, and they can bury you in fines before you even get to court. Can we fight? I asked. Sure, Dave said, but it'll cost more in legal fees than the fines. Honestly, move. I bristled. That's what Laura wanted, and I wasn't giving in. Not happening. What if I buy the land under the HOA? Silence. Then Dave's tone shifted. You've got my attention. I laid it out. The records, the desperate developer, the fact that the HOA didn't own the streets. If I pull this off, what happens? I asked. You'd control access, Dave said. You could revoke the HOA's authority over it. My pulse quickened. So I could shut them down? If you play it right, yeah? But they'll fight dirty. I already knew that. Laura wouldn't go quietly. Money was the next hurdle. The land was cheaper than my fine, but still a stretch. I pitched the idea to Ryan, who loved it. This is genius, he said, laughing. We split the cost. Him as an investor, me as the mastermind. Within days, we were negotiating with the developer. Then the HOA retaliated. My car got towed for violating neighborhood vehicle standards. My dusty pickup didn't meet their aesthetic values. Next, a court summons arrived. The HOA was suing me for $60,000 in unpaid fines, threatening foreclosure. In court, the judge, Laura's golf buddy, barely listened. I got 30 days to pay or lose my house. A week later, the land deal closed. I owned the street, sidewalks, everything. Laura had no idea. I kept it quiet, letting her think she'd won. The night before the next HOA meeting, I prepped my move, legal documents, notices, everything. I sat on my porch, beer in hand, savoring the calm before the storm. The next day, I strolled into the HOA meeting at the clubhouse, a place I'd avoided like the plague. Laura sat at the head, flanked by her lackey, a twitchy guy named Carl. She launched into her attack. Tom Davis has repeatedly violated regulations. His unpaid fines total $63,000. If unpaid in 10 days, we'll foreclose. Murmurs spread. I smiled, stood, and dropped my folder on the table. As of yesterday, that's not happening. I bought the street, the sidewalks, the common areas. It's mine. Silence. Laura gaped. Carl scrambled through my papers. You can't just buy the street, she snapped. I did, I said. And since I control access, I'm revoking the HOA's rights to use it. Her face flushed. This is illegal. No, I said, it's business. Want to keep operating? Pay me. Otherwise, pack up your rules and go. She slammed the table, but her board crumbled. An older member, Ed, spoke up. What do you want? Erase my fines, reimburse everyone you've extorted, and dissolve the HOA, I said. Laura fumed, but Ed nodded. It's over. She stormed out, her reign done. I turned to the room. Who's up for a block party? The neighborhood transformed. People laughed, kids played, and the fear lifted. But Laura didn't quit. A week later, a big-shot law firm sued me, claiming my purchase was fraudulent. I countersued, exposing her abuses, fines, kickbacks to her brother's company, witness statements. The media ate it up. Homeowner topples tyrannical HOA. Laura settled, dropping her suit if I dropped mine. I made her sign away any future HOA power. She was finished. The block party raged on. No more fines, just freedom. Greg, a neighbor, asked, "What's next?" I grinned. "There's a street for sale in the next neighborhood." He laughed, then stopped. "Wait, you're serious?" I raised my beer. Options, man. Weeks later, I bought that street too, where Laura had moved, plotting her HOA comeback. She showed up at my door, livid. "This is harassment." "Just business," I said. "Pay an access fee, or build your own road." She tried fighting, but her new HOA collapsed as residents rebelled. Soon, a for sale sign went up at her house. She glared as she packed. "Moving to a real community," she spat. I smirked. Good luck. Peace settled in. No more HOA tyranny. Greg asked again, "What's next?" I sipped my beer. Maybe a gated community with a strict HOA. Could be fun to shake up. He laughed. "You're unstoppable." I toasted. To freedom. Maybe I was done with HOAs. Or just getting started.